let's get started on this fine day. Alrighty. Today we're tying a pike fly or a musky fly, depending on what you could kind of consider this size and style of fly. But we're gonna start off with some orange for the tail. We're not gonna blend anything quite yet. Actually, maybe we should blend some stuff just to get the views rolling in. People think it's more interesting, right? If we blend bucktail. So I guess we'll go in with some orange and some yellow, just to get a nice little perch color going on here. So we'll do about 2/3 orange and about 1/3 yellow. Maybe a little bit more, like 50-50, whatever. So go ahead and blend these two guys together. Stack them on top of each other to get a nice little blend going. And then I'll stack these guys up in a hair stacker. Oh, we're tying a really quick deer hair or deer tail streamer, you know, pike, smallmouth fly before we get into some patterns, whatever people wanna see. But yeah, we're starting off with a cool blended bucktail pattern as usual. Oh, whoops, wrong way. Gotta cord up that thread. Give this a little straight tie. How's it going, Traveler Flies? How are we doing? I'm not going to go super long tail. I'm actually going to trim this off. I want this to be like a nice springtime pike fly, so not too big. You know, just a nice medium-sized pike musky fly that, you know, even in the fall you can fish for smallmouth with and stuff. So just a super versatile general purpose game fish fly is what we're going for today. Using some gel spun. Gonna spin that up, and now we'll start building this fly. So we're gonna use some yellow. I'm doing pretty good, Traveler Flies. Thanks for asking. What have you been tying up recently? We've got some orange as well. And we're just gonna blend orange and yellow together. And I just do that by just, you know, stacking them on top of each other and pulling in, or, you know, pulling back and forth to kind of distribute all those fibers. Makes a really cool modeled look that I think looks, you know, in this case, a lot more like a perch than just a standard tie-in. And, you know, layering bucktail colors together, you know, if I do a stack of this and then I tie it in and then a stack of that, it is... Did you tell me that you won that vice? You did, Liam, you did. Very happy for you. And as you can see, it makes a really nice blended look when you stack those guys together. We've got that side. And then for the bottom, we'll probably just go with some white to start that out. Maybe we'll blend in a little yellow with it too, just to make a more dynamic look to this fly. Mini blue herring patterns on 6s, nice. And I'm just blending just a little bit of yellow just to add some more, just to add a little bit of pop to the belly. Nice, North Carolina. Cool, very cool. And you don't want a ton of material on the belly. I've discussed this before, but it doesn't keel properly if you have a bunch of material on the bottom, because obviously if there's a bunch of material down here, it's not going to ride like this, it's going to ride like that, which, I mean, in certain circumstances you might want, but in general, like, that's not, like, you don't want that. So another fly tyer who ties like 10-inch pike flies just sent me 6 giant pike flies, and he sent me some materials to tie a stone fly and some streamers and some giant pike flies. I can't wait. Very nice. And as you can see, that blended. Obviously, it's not super poppy on the bottom, and that's not really the point. We want a nice light underbody or belly, but it definitely adds some more dynamicness that just plain old white doesn't, really have as much. So I'll grab some Zap-A-Gap here. If I can pull it out of here, goodness gracious. Oh, I might need to grab my pliers to pull this out. There we go. And adding that UV or that Zap-A-Gap just kind of helps hold the thread in place. If you have a big toothy pike or something that comes in and eats this, you don't want your fly falling apart. You work on this for quite a little period of time, and you don't want them just falling apart all the time, right? So, and that really helps. And then we just really want to make sure to crease this back really well. Crease it back and then fold it. And when you make that crease, it really helps to hold everything in place. If you really make like a triangular shape with your hand. And this first one, I usually do a bullet tie. I switch to a hollow tie eventually. You'll do a video on them opening the box. Very nice. So a bullet tie, people look down on bullet ties sometimes, or yeah, bullet ties. And like, I don't blame them at times, but I think at other times, bullet ties are definitely an effective method to, to tie a hair, deer tail fly. And I think a situation where that definitely is important is on the very back of a fly. It's just really helpful to be able to quickly get down a little bit of material for a base that doesn't have a ton of bulk. And you can also make this stuff look really bulky for sure, depending on what technique you use to reverse tie. But in general, that bullet tie will kind of tamp down the material, but that's not always bad. You don't always want a super massive fluffy section. And even if you tie super sparsely, you'll sometimes still get a big, fluffy, just not super dense fly, which you don't always want, especially near the rear, because you want, there to be a bigger head, right? And then it kind of flows, and this isn't a great example, but you want a big head so that moves water, and then it has to close in on itself, and it creates a bunch more action than if you just had, an evenly sized fly all the way throughout. So we've got this little blend in place. I'm gonna tie that, and actually I'm gonna add a little bit more material to that just to continue to kind of grow out. I want to slowly increase the amount of material I use throughout the layering and the crafting of this fly. So just blend these guys together. And that last bundle was a pretty yellow heavy bunch, so I'm gonna go a little bit more orange heavy this time. Stack up those butts just so that they're a little bit easier to tie in. How's it going? Very nice having you here. Now I'll tie this in. Thank you, Klauser. Thank you. Nice fire color, I know. It's very cool. And on the bottom, I'm gonna go straight yellow this time. Normally I go some form of white, but we're gonna go straight yellow. And we're gonna go really sparse yellow. Have a really sparse belly so that fly keels really well. Who unliked? Who unlikes? Goodness. Alrighty. So now you're tying some stimulators. I love stimulators, dude. Stimulators like peak fly, like very good dry fly. for like everything. Obviously trout, super effective, but for, for even like, big stimulators for bass and stuff, it can be really good. Ooh, I need to scrape some of the glue off this Glover's needle, that's for sure. Best bodkin ever, by the way, Glover's needle. Obviously, like, bodkins you get from fly shops are great, but I don't know, Glover's needle bodkins, or using a Glover's needle as a bodkin, super good. If you ever want a relatively inexpensive bobbin that is a lot, that'll last forever, get a Glover's needle and just use it as a bobbin. You can put a little handle on it if you want. Works like a charm. Alrighty, this isn't the best looking tie-in spot because obviously this is a stinger hook, but it'll work. And I'll just push this back with whatever pusher back device you prefer. And then once again, I'll give this a really good crease. And this isn't a very good tie-in, unfortunately, but it'll be fine. I didn't get a super good dense pack in there, but then I'll just crease this really well. Folding it just helps it lay in place. And then I'll do a hollow tie this time to show you guys how that works instead of a bullet tie. And this is usually the point where I'll start hollow tying anyway, because you want to start building up a a larger profile with less bulk. So that hollow tie is a super effective technique for that. And with this really thick thread, it does tend to kind of pile down if you're not careful, so that looks fine. I'm gonna just put a little bit of Zap-A-Gap on there, more so to just hold that thread in place, more than like, obviously we want to avoid predators chewing this thing up, but it's also just to help stop stuff from, flopping off of there. And then I'm gonna grab some flash. So I'll probably use some orange flash on this fly, just because it'll just go with the perch color we're going for. And I don't use a ton of flash on these flies because for the most part these are, I'm designing this fly for more clear water. If you had really murky water, how's it going, Yolanda? If you wanted to tie a fly for really murky water, tying with a bunch of crystal flash or even like Flashabou would definitely be an effective route to go. But in general, like a lot of the clear water that I'm fishing in the upper Midwest is, it's pretty effective to just go with pretty minimal flash. Especially for these smaller flies, which I have, a lot of experience fishing. Smaller flies for, largemouth and pike. When you're talking about really clear water, you can like watch them get spooked by really flashy flies. So obviously there is a time and a place for really flashy flies even in clear water, but when we're talking about the average day, really flashy flies in clear water usually aren't as effective as just a plain old, perch imitation or something like that. Or if you're, talking about, other bodies of water that have more like suckers in them and things like that, kind of reddish white imitations work pretty well as well. You can't see emojis? What do you mean? Why can't you see emojis? And I'm just kind of spreading this flash around. And now I'm gonna go in with my final layering. I'm gonna go in with some more orange this time. And we're gonna blend bucktail. For you guys that haven't seen how I blend my bucktail, I'll usually grab about, we'll go about a half clump of each. We'll go about 50-50 on this final layering for this segment at least. So we'll go about half and half of yellow and orange. And this yellow is slightly higher quality, so it's a little bit longer, but then all I do is I lay them on top of each other, and then I start to just fold. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, Klauser, how he knows that they're there. That's weird. So yeah, so now I'm just folding. You can see a box with a circle in the middle, but oh, that's weird. That's interesting. Are you on like Samsung or something? Or do you have like Android instead of an Apple or something? Or do you have, this is an Apple device that I'm watching this on, so it shouldn't be an Apple problem. So yeah, then you just layer them on top of each other and you get this really nice mixed look on your deer hair. And then from there, oh, a Dell computer. Yeah, Dell. Yeah, that probably doesn't show up on there. That makes sense. Just giving those butts a little stack just to allow them to be tied in easier, of course. And I'm gonna cord up my thread really quick. This will just help me bind down on that tail just a little bit better. Tie that in, and then I'm not trying to really spin this hair a ton. That way on the bottom I can add my my belly material, which in this case I'm gonna just mix just a tad bit of orange, just because we're kind of lacking on the bottom. So just like literally like you could count the number of fibers in this bundle, it's so little. And then some white, which I'm desperately running low on, but it's whatever, it'll be fine. And then I'll mix these two together. Shh, Liam, shh. YouTube can hear you. YouTube can hear you. Alrighty, so we just blended that together, and this isn't a big deal to blend this a ton, like with your, with your top layer. It's more so just for, yeah, you're all good. You just never know what YouTube is looking at. So yeah, so I just blending them just a little bit, just add a little bit of color to the bottom does help. Obviously, having some white on the bottom is definitely super beneficial, especially because this fly doesn't have a ton of white in it. But if we just blend a little bit in there, it just makes them more, I think, cool looking fly. And then this final one I have tied in really close, and actually I am gonna zap gap this really quick, just to, allow this fly a lot more durability, of course. Is your family an Apple family or an Android family, Liam? I'm just scraping off the glue from this. I have to do this pretty much every day to get the Zap-A-Gap off my needle. And then I'm gonna bring this back, and then on this last one, you can see I try to tie them in really close. Apple family, nice. I respect all Apple and Android users equally, but alrighty, and then I just fold it over, and obviously it's really close, so this makes a perfect opportunity to hollow tie. And usually when you're getting up there, you can just fold this over, kind of give it like a three-way, middle finger, thumb on the bottom, pointer finger on top, and obviously I do that more at this angle, but just pinching those together just to really crease them. And when you crease them, you generally don't even have to tie. Like I did one wrap, and it's already looking like that, like a solid looking fly. And this isn't the last part of the fly. We will be tying in, or we will be putting in a articulation to the front of this, so it'll look more like that. But actually, I don't hate that fly the way it is. I might just leave it like that, because that actually isn't a bad looking fly. I might not even do an articulation. Middle finger, thumb, pointer. Did I flip the camera off or something? My bad. Just trying to show people how to tie flies, guys. This is the fly tying community. This isn't the gaming community where people will be crashing out, so I don't really care, actually. I'm just showing people how to tie flies. Or tying flies while people watch, whichever one people like to do, I guess. And I'll do a quick whip finish. Oh, what about how squeaky it is? Yeah, this bobbin is like so squeaky. It's a great streamer bobbin. If you want like a all-around bobbin, the Smayan bobbin is the best, but this is a great streamer bobbin. I mean, it holds big thread well, but it's so squeaky, you're right. Now I'm just gonna get some Zap-A-Gap on this thing. God. Literally have to do this on the daily. Alrighty, we're all good. Now that we've scraped off all the dried up Zap-A-Gap, well, not all of it apparently, gosh dang it. There we go. Get that in there. Get some Zap-A-Gap tune this up. Do you think we should do an articulation, or do you think we should leave it the way it is? Let me know, quick. People's attention spans are tiny. We'll start losing viewers. I guarantee you in about 4 seconds, I'm about to, I'll count down for you when we're starting to lose viewers. In 5, 4. An articulation, should we put this on the front and tie in some wire to put this and tie more material onto this to make it like a bigger fly? Or should I just make this the fly? Does this look like a good fly? Leave it? We got 1 vote for leave it. Do you want me to articulate? Liam wants me to articulate? You know what? I always just do single hooked flies, so we'll do an articulation. We'll just try it. I would agree with you, Bambi, that I think we should leave it, but just because I've never done an articulation on here, I'm going to try. I'm going to show it. So I've got this is a Muskie Fool shank straights. You get them in a 10-pack. Low-key, you can just make your own, and they're cheaper, but I just happen to have a pack of these. So, great materials, by the way. If you want to go to Muskie Fool, they get great bucktail and stuff. But not sponsored, just highly recommended. They got great streamer tying stuff. So, yeah, I'm just going to tie that in. We're going to start off just like any normal fly with, you know, just some, I think this is what is this, 240 denier GSP from, I think this is 240. It could be 220, I don't know, it's a GSP. And I'm going to start off right away by tying in my articulation before I do anything else. So, pop that on there. We're going to go in with some, we'll go with this. I use this for a lot of my, really heavy muskie and pike leaders, 50-pound. This is Cortland bite guard, but you can use really whatever. And I won't do a super long section. I don't like to waste this stuff because this stuff is, weirdly expensive for, this is, only, 10 yards or something crazy. 15 feet, it's 15 feet, not even 10 yards. So, yeah, there's, nothing in here, so you got to be kind of conservative with it, especially while I'm trying to make, long leaders with it as well. So, it's kind of annoying, but what are you going to do? So, yeah, I'll just grab some of that bite wire, throw that in there like that. And sometimes I will put this on, a swivel for, around my really, really big musky flies. Really big stuff, I usually will put on a swivel. That way I can replace, the tail section. But for these smaller flies, just tying them in like this is not a big deal. It just adds more bulk than it's worth, in my personal opinion. Some people still do it on this size of fly. But yeah, honestly, dude, it's so expensive for how much you get. It's ridiculous. And you probably bought fluoro too, and fluoro is even more ridiculous. Fluoro is on a whole nother level. We think wire is expensive, and it is very expensive, but fluorocarbon is crazy. And yeah, I get it. I don't know the manufacturing process, or else I'd explain it, but it's probably not easy because it's, it's not just monofilament, right? But it's still somebody's in there is making a crap ton of money off of some sort of monopoly they have on fluorocarbon, because there's no way it's that expensive to manufacture. I refuse to believe it. It's unreasonably expensive in my opinion. But also, guys, let me know. I was just thinking about this. I kind of want to try to make a castable musky fly, with just a crap ton of weight in it. So if you guys ever want to see that on a live, let me know, because I think making a rod or a fly that can be casted on a bait caster would be kind of a fun little experiment to do. But anyway, so once I have this tied in like this, normally when I do the extensions on flies like this, where it's a mono extension that comes off, make an extra long tail, right? I just tie them in, but because this is weight bearing, I do fold mine over, so I tie it in really well, and then kind of crimp down on that so it folds over, cleanly, and then put it up on top, really bind down, and you can really bind down. Thank you, Liam. Yeah, very, very good technique so it doesn't pull out. So yeah, and obviously this is GSP, so you can really kind of crank down. It's kind of annoying because you can't feel when it's about to break because it doesn't really stretch, but You just kind of got to use your intuition, I guess. Goodness gracious, that's squeaking. I'm sorry, guys. So from there, we're going to do a pretty simple, should I do a blended bucktail front, or should I do something like interesting, like hackled marabou or something? Thank you so much, Sarah. I very much appreciate it. Should we do like a more blended bucktail like we normally do, or should we do like hackled marabou or something like cool, different? I don't know if I really have that kind of stuff in here. Let's look if I have good. I don't really have a ton of great, like in the colors. It would be cool to kind of put purple on there or something. What's the black fly? This one? This is a giant musky fly. You'd be putting it on 50-pound leaders like this. But yeah, it's a big giant musky fly. Yeah. This is probably what? I don't know how long this is. It's a big old musky fly. Or big giant pike fly, I guess, but this is starting to even push pike. This is probably, I don't think I have a ruler in here. I probably should have one. But yeah, I don't know. This is probably a foot long, something like that. I don't know. I'm horrible at measuring distance. Yeah, it's a big boy. Okay, see you, Liam. What are we thinking for? I'm thinking we do like a blended kind of look on the back. Obviously, this is a standard bucktail back, like classic hollow tied, but like, I don't know. I've tied a lot of those on here, so I think tying something a little different would look cool. So we're gonna go with purple because I feel like just like a bloody purple would look really cool on this fly, and I've got a ton of this purple color, so we're gonna use some purple. So we're gonna start off by hackling, or we'll start off with a little bundle and just put it out the back like a woolly bugger, I guess, just to start this guy off. So I've got some good hackle flies there, but I want a feather that'd be better for just straight tying in. So yeah, this will be good one. Whoa, goodness gracious. So we've got a nice little bundle of hackle fibers here. I kicked my zap gap all the way over there. So we've got hackle here. Ooh, this is like ugly. That'll be fine. So yeah, I'm gonna put this just around the top of this fly. And for this first one, just to kind of continue a nice smooth body, we'll bring this back forward, cut that off. There we have it. And then after that, I'll start hackling marabou. So I usually actually start with the butt end of the marabou, just because it tends to make a cleaner overall product a lot quicker. You can just crank these out a lot better if you go in butt section first. Not like so you know, the opposite of a soft hackle basically, and just brushing that backward. And this does really go down in the water, which is why supplementing this with bucktail is super helpful, because the bucktail will keep it aloft while, you know, while having the beautiful action and beautiful colors of bucktail. So definitely blending bucktail and marabou together is super helpful, and it's something that like you don't see a lot from a lot of musky flies. So I do think that blending the two together is a fun little thing to do once in a while. So I'll do another one of these really quick. Again, I normally do butt section first, just because it's you know, makes it overall a faster tie-in, and then your tie off is way cleaner looking without having to mess as much. I'm gonna bring that forward just a hair, and then I'm just gonna brush this all back. Trying to just brush those little feathers out. And then we got a nice little marabou base, and now I'm gonna go in with some more deer tail. So we'll start blending in some red into this, I guess, just because, you know, this is a nice little reddish purplish color. So we're gonna grab some more orange, because I want to keep with this perch kind of theme. So we're gonna grab some more orange. and just a hair of yellow. And then I'll also grab some red, which I have lying around here somewhere. I just have a little sample red. I don't have a big full tail of red, unfortunately, but it'll be fine. And this red, actually this hair is not great because it's all like partially cut off. Some of the tips are kind of annoying, but it'll be fine. So I'll blend these 3 colors together. Just layering them on top of each other. And then from there, I'm actually just gonna cut off the ends from this instead of stacking it, just because these tips are already relatively well aligned, so we don't gotta really worry about, or the butt ends are relatively well aligned, my bad. Give that a fair bit of thread tension, go to the bottom, and we didn't spin it around on purpose, that way on the top we can grab some white and get a really small belly in here. Again, we want this fly to keel properly, so trying to keep more material on the top than on the bottom is super important, so that this fly doesn't flip in the water and tangle and make a huge mess. And this fly won't have any weight on it. It'll be relying solely on both the weight of the hardware, and then, you know, if we're putting this on a sinking line or something, or in an intermediate line, obviously that will greatly help its buoyant, you know, that'll determine its buoyancy. So, you know, having, you know, really controlling the amount of material you use on the bottom versus top is super critical to having a properly tied fly, especially with these bigger deer hair flies, and even more so with, you know, really big flies, of course. But with these small flies, it definitely matters. Material selection definitely still matters. I'm probably gonna go, I'm gonna go with a bullet tie on this, just to keep that body kind of relatively slim, so that when we go in with deer hair a little bit later, it will kind of flare out a little bit more, so we have I am pretty good this week. How are you, Mr. Camp? Sorry, when I'm getting into a rant, I don't read chat all the time. I probably should do that a little bit more orange. And I'm gonna blend in a little bit of white, just to keep up. Like, white is almost like natural flash, which is kind of fun. Like, it almost acts as flash in the water, and especially with these blended bucktail flies, it overall makes just a more rounded off, you know, good looking fly. Obviously from an aesthetic standpoint and from a fishing standpoint. And I'm gonna go with a little bit of red too, just probably a quarter of a bundle, even less probably. We don't want a ton of red, just enough to kind of accentuate that red look on this front of this fly. We just want it to look almost like this is a wounded perch. We've got those 3 colors on there: white, yellow, red, and orange. Thank you. Yeah, this is for pike. This was actually, I was thinking about making this just a fly on its own, so I'm kind of improvising by making this an articulation because somebody wanted to see it. But it's this is a pike fly. Also could be used for big brown trout, you know, big trout as a whole. Muskie, especially in the springtime, I'll probably be fishing this for muskie. Yeah, things like that. Trying to figure out your next vice. What's your budget? Are we talking like really nice? Are we talking, you know, beginner? Are we talking somewhere in between? What are we thinking? I know my fair share of vices. I'm a bit of a vice nerd. Yes, sir. Alrighty. And these are relatively well blended. Actually, I don't love how these ended up blending, but that'll be fine. I'm gonna tie these in. And again, lots of material on the top, and when we tie in that bottom material, we will have I'll tie this in pretty minimally, so we'll actually do that right now. Very minimal, and we'll just go in with white this round. Ooh, shank is starting to come a little loose. Always happens with shanks for some reason. Now I'll grab my pusher backer tool, whatever you use. I use a bobbin of some sort, normally wire or floss, sometimes a thread bobbin, depending on what is nearby. Your son gave you a red-eyed frog, and the thing scares everything. That's funny. You have a Renzetti apprentice for about 5 years now, debating on a traveler, saving a few bucks, and getting the Nirvana 2. Ooh, I would, me personally, get the Renzetti apprentice, or not the Renzetti apprentice. Get the Renzetti traveler. This is mine, and this is what I tie on every single day. Is just the standard Renzetti traveler. What is it, the 2000, whatever the standard one is. Literally my favorite vice of all time. Best vice I've ever tied on, besides like the Renzetti Pro, obviously, but that's like I can't justify that. But of the vices, sub $300 vices, best vice I've ever tied with, hands down, hands absolutely down. Regals are good, but I don't know, they're a little simplistic for how much you spend on them. There's definitely really nice vices, but honestly, Renzetti Traveler can't go wrong with it. I use this vice every single day. Literally tie with it every single day. Never have I ever had problems with it. It's a great vice. And I'm just hollow tying this. Gosh, that little screech, I hate that thing. I'm gonna take some thread off of this. It's not, I want it to splay out a little bit more. Yeah, that's good. And let's get another nice little layer of I'm absolutely running out of Zap-A-Gap as we speak. I'm getting some more soon, hopefully, because I need some more very desperately. How are we doing tonight, guys? How are we doing tonight? We need some discussions in the chat. Otherwise, it's going to get boring in here. There we go. Nice little hollow tie in there. And we could probably do another marabou tie-in at some point pretty quick, I guess. I don't know. I kind of like where this is going, though, the way it is, low-key. We'll do another one of these tie-ins for sure before we go on to another marabou clump. So, about probably a third clump of, 1/3 of a clump of orange. About a sixth of a clump of yellow. Please do not mind my total amounts. It might not equal one whole. Math, I'm pretty good at, but not while I'm tying flies. Got some red. How is the, I don't know if you're still here, your favorite camp, but how is that, a Renzetti apprentice treated you? I've never, like, obviously I've seen them all around, but I've never actually tied on a Renzetti apprentice. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any complaints about Renzetti either. Like, this, I don't know, this is my favorite vice of all time. This is such a great vice. It's the true rotary on it is beautiful. The jaws on it, I've tied many. I couldn't tell you how many flies. Like, literally I can't. It is a great vice. Good. The jaws on it, yeah, super durable. Everything on this is super durable. The only complaint I've ever had is this screw that holds the vice in place. I have to tighten every, I don't know, week. But, even that, like, I should just use a screwdriver. I use I use a hook to tighten it. So it's not like I'm actually tightening it down. So if I had a screwdriver, it'd be fine. But I just don't have any down here, and I don't really want to grab one every time I go tie. So, It's more of a me problem than a Vice problem, but... So I'm just blending all of these guys together. And as you can see, I have a really nice big clump here. And as I'm starting to get to the head of this fly, that's what I'm trying to do. I want a nice big head because it'll move the most water. Just to show you, for you guys that don't really understand why I want a big head. This isn't maybe the best example. Well, it's a pretty good example. So why we want a big head is because when water's coming at this fly, and this is, I don't know why this looks so uneven right now, but water comes at this fly, it pushes out, right? And it makes a vortex, because as it pushes out, it's got to go somewhere, right? Because, you know, water doesn't really compress that much. So it goes out, and then it's got to come back in. And that really thin rest of that body allows that water to go and then back in, and it makes a vortex that slaps, and it makes a really nice action in the water. And obviously when you're stripping it in, you can't really see or feel that, but that is what happens. And it's just a lot more effective for action purposes, and it makes a much better wake in the water, and it overall just works better as a fly. So tying in a nice big clump here, just gonna cord up my thread just a hair. Especially this Vivus GSP really comes uncorded easily in my experience. Tighten down on it, and I'm not trying to spin this, remember, just trying to keep this relatively on top, and, you know, towards the sides, of course. But what do you like to tie, favorite camp, if you're still here? What's your favorite type of fly to tie? And I'll flip this over and get some material on the bottom. And I'm going to use white again. I'll probably switch out as we get nearer to a different color profile, but for now we'll stick with a white belly. And of course, as I said before, to keep this fly from keeling, or so that this fly keels properly, I'm going to go in with pretty minimal amount. Thank you, Bambi Clouser. Thank you very much. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could definitely see that, favorite camp. I can definitely say. Am I saying your name right? I'm sorry if I'm not. Yeah, I can definitely see how that makes sense. Thank you, Bambi Clouser, by the way. Yeah, that definitely makes sense, just based on the jaw geometry, and also, like, obviously just how it works. But yeah, that does make sense, because it's basically a, you know, a standard vice kind of. I don't have one around. I brought them all to a local place. That's about right. That's pretty much what I do. I've been tying a lot of streamers recently for preparation for the springtime game fish seasons, but definitely I tie basically everything under the sun. Just got done tying some soft tackles for a fly box I'm working on. There'll probably be a couple videos on my YouTube channel about that in the spring here, about what box I'm working on. So now I'll just tamp these guys back. As you can see, got them all back, and I'm just gonna go. Ooh, that belly is twisted on me. That's not good. Not enough thread tension, I guess. Gotta really bind down on that. There we go. Working our way forward is fine too, because it just lets everything be in the same position to fold it back. Fold this guy back, and I'll really bind down on this to name Havercamp. Frank is fine. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Havercamp. Frank is fine. Already, Havercamp. I'll remember that. Havercamp. Alrighty. So now we've got a nice little bit here. So I'll really fold this back. Make sure to, you know, kind of clamp down on that hair to make sure it's all folded back, creased up really nice. And I'm gonna do a probably a hollow tie on this part. God dang, this thing is squeaky. So squeaky. Bring that back just a little bit. I want it a little bit more more splayed out than that. There we go. That'll be good. There we go. And now, let's do another little round of some marabou, so we're not just a one-trick pony over here. I'll go back in with that nice kind of wine-colored marabou. And once again, I'm going to tie in the butt section of this first. So tying on that butt section, because I said this before, but it helps create a much, just because we probably have all new people by now, for the most part. You know, having that butt section in place allows me to tie a lot more efficiently, and I can tie this in and then right away tie it off, and it makes a much cleaner look without having to like trim stuff off. So yeah, you can tie this like a soft tackle almost, where you tie in that tip first, but it just makes a more cohesive body if you tie in that butt first, which is normally what I do. Yes, literally me too. Literally me too, Havercamp. Yeah, I fish everything from streams that you can step across to you know, massive bodies of water for muskie and pike. It's definitely a cool experience to have to do all of that type of fishing. Especially where I live, I can't be too picky with what I fish for. Upper Midwest, we got a lot of cool stuff to fish for. So now once again, I'm tying in that butt, and I'm doing the same thing. This is a pretty sparse feather, so I'm not going to get super far with it, but that's fine. And now, just to show you kind of why I do it this way, I can now take that back, pull this back, and tie this back on, and it makes a really clean look. Yeah, exactly. Even for me, I'm a bit of a youngster still, and it can definitely be hard to tie on anything smaller than a 20 or a 24. Anything smaller than that, I literally can't. Even if I'm tying on, you know, tiny tippets. There we go. Had to tighten up those that screw like I was talking about. And now the rest of this fly is going to be straight up deer hair. And the good thing about doing it this way is you've got deer hair, and deer hair stays pretty much the same, right? I'll go back to this perch imitation, which I don't love this fly, not gonna lie. It just looks kind of weird. But this deer hair will stay the same, right? Like when I put this in the water, like it'll go down a little bit maybe when I'm stripping it really hard, but other than that, like it'll stay pretty much aloft, right? Like really stiff fibers. How's it going, Squirrely Outdoors? Really stiff fibers. And when I'm tying with marabou, I don't have any marabou flies because I don't tie any straight marabou flies anymore. I do, they work, but they get really thin in the water. They look like a pencil, because all that marabou tightens down on that hook when it gets wet. So if you layer in layers of your deer hair and layers of marabou, this deer hair will hold that marabou up, and that marabou will keep its action. So it's a really cool technique to get really cool and different looks to your flies, which can, you know, sometimes be the difference between catching some fish and not. So it is cool. Dust bunnies on 28s. That is great. 28s is crazy. I've never tied. I should try to tie some tiny flies. That's crazy though. Okay, let's get another deer hair blend in here. So got some orange, and we'll go about a third orange again, third of a clump of orange, and we'll go pretty dense with this last. So I'll actually go a little bit more orange than I normally would on the average clump. And then I'm gonna go in with some white just to, you know, again, it's almost like a natural flash. It's especially when paired with darker colors, it really kind of makes that fly pop a lot more. So a little bit of white. We'll go in with a little bit of red as well. A little bit of red, not very much, just enough to make this pop, make it look like a wounded perch or something like that. And in the bodies of water around me, you know, in the upper Midwest, there's quite a bit of perch, and that's a major bait fish for pike, muskies, you know, and even in bodies of water that have brown trout, you know, often little perch are a major staple food. So having imitations that you know, imitate perch is super vital for those bodies of water, especially during the springtime, of course. So we've got a nice big bundle of our 4 different colors. It's so satisfying to just have a nice big bundle of that stuff. And now I'm going to start blending those together. So you're going to start off by flattening everything, you know, kind of going widthwise almost, and then slowly just you know, just kind of rolling them into my fingers and then restacking. And you can use a dubbing brush or something if you really feel like you need to kind of flatten everything out and get everything nice and blended. But I find I don't really need to do that much. Normally, I just use my fingers. And once I blend this guy up, this is enough material that I'll throw it into my hair stacker, butt side down. There we go. And then actually I am going to put a little bit of flash on this before, because we still have a little bit of room. So I'm going to continue with the orange look. I could tie in some purple, I guess, but we'll just tie in orange. They kind of stick with that perch look. So yeah, we'll go a fair bit on the top, tie that in, and then do the rest on the bottom. Do I tie any? I do tie tube flies. Do I have any tube flies nearby? Probably do somewhere. I got a little shelf behind me that I keep flies that don't really have a home yet. Yeah, I tie tube fly. This is a stupid little dumb tube fly. The resin like chipped off of it, which is why it's up here. But I do tie some tube flies. I need to fish them more. I've fished them a little bit, but don't fish them as much as I should. But yeah, this is a nice little tube fly. Do I have any bigger tube? I don't have any bigger tube flies here, but I do tube flies. They're very fun. They're very fun. They're very unique in how you tie them, and it's really fun. Like, I think it's a good technique to learn, and I think it helps you out. You know, learning how to tie with tube flies helps you learn other techniques well too, because it's I don't know, it's a really good learning material to kind of help you learn techniques that are really important for tube flies, that are important for other flies, but you don't get to practice as much. And they're a fun little fly to try. I don't fish them a ton, unfortunately, but I need to. But they're definitely a really cool fly to try, and I would definitely try tying on them because they're really cool. I actually made my own kit. Do I have? I do not. I made my own tube fly vise in you know, on a milling machine and a lathe, and it's super fun, out of brass. And yeah, so it's just a try tube fly tying, and it works really well. I use a little like those little like hobby drill things. They're just like hand drills that you tighten on drill bits with. I just use one of those, and it works really well. We're gonna be a little close because I don't really want to tie up against that, but it'll be fine. If my thread snaps, you can all laugh at me, right? On the bottom, we're gonna go a little bit heavier than we have in the past. Obviously, for the head, you still want a good water pushing head, so I don't want to go super sparse, but still going sparser than the top will, you know, again, help that fly keel really well. So So going with a nice little white and orange bottom. We'll go with just a hair of orange, just to add a little bit of pop to this fly, right? So blend that in, and I don't normally blend in my bellies a ton, just enough to get it all distributed. So that should be fine. And then you can stack if you want with this small amount, and being relatively well lined up. I'll just cut it and tie that on here. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. You're a tool maker by trade. That's really cool. Yeah, it was a fun little project to do. Alrighty. And as I'm finishing up this fly, guys, if you've enjoyed the live stream, please do consider subscribing so that you can see when I go live next, or just to support the channel. I very much appreciate each and every subscriber, of course, but I'm not here to beg. Ugh. And I'll throw a little bit of Zap-A-Gap on this fly. And I'll just pat this guy down just so it doesn't get all Zap-A-Gappy in the deer hair. And I'll just make sure that all this hair is spread out. And then I'll fold this over. And as I said before, especially on the head, really making sure that you fold down on this fly. Yeah, thanks, Traveler Flies. Yeah, there's so many people that I think I'm subscribed to, and then when I look at my subscription randomly, I realize that I don't. Oh, for sure. There's no real reason. I just have always used Zap-A-Gap. I think it's my favorite glue. I haven't tried enough glues to give a true opinion on what is the best glue. I've tried a lot of glues, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I can give a clear this is the best glue, because I haven't tried every major glue brand. But in terms of obviously I've used super glues and stuff, and of all of those, Zap-A-Gap I would say is the best. Its consistency, for one, is super good for fly tying. It's the perfect consistency that both sticks to the thread and to the fly, but not so thick that it's really a pain to work with, or such a pain to work with that it it just goes everywhere and it's all messy and watery. So that is my personal reason why. But in terms of other fly tying glues that have similar consistencies, I can't really say, yo, this is the best. So definitely experiment. I mean, other glues, they're super, there's a lot of super good glues out there, and it's really whatever works for you. I tie a lot of streamers, and Zap-A-Gap is kind of the main guy in terms of streamer patterns. But for other things like Parachute Adams and things, it's not necessarily the best. Yeah, I mean, cheap super glues work. I mean, I've used a lot of cheap super glues, and they work super good. But especially for these bigger flies, having a good consistency really allows you to be able to hone your craft. Hello, Gma Beth. It really helps you kind of hone those flies and get them where you want them to be without having to always mess with stuff. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, I will give this guy a final little dusting of Zap-A-Gap, and other than that, I want to thank you guys so much for coming along. Please do consider subscribing, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you, guys.